So we've discussed a lot on this channel the starfighters utilized by the Galactic Empire, the Rebel Alliance, and the Separatists during their respective wars. But I figured today we could take a look at the fighters utilized by the Grand Army of the Republic during the Clone Wars. I'm Colin, and this is Sci-Fi Deep Dive. Remember, if you enjoyed this video, to head down below and hit that subscribe button. So before we begin, I want to throw a little caveat out there that I will not be discussing the fighters utilized by the Jedi during the conflict, and instead specifically focusing on the ones utilized by the Grand Army of the Republic itself. So things like the Delta 7 Interceptor won't be on this list. So let's jump right in with one of the first starfighters we see on screen during the Clone Wars TV show utilized by the Grand Army of the Republic, and that is the V19 Torrent. The V19 Torrent was a fast, nimble, small, light starfighter that didn't have its own hyperdrive. It also lacked shielding and really any substantial armament, only having a few laser cannons. This all lends to the fact that the V19 Torrent was developed and produced remarkably quickly. This fighter was basically a stopgap, so the Republic had some sort of starfighter for the opening days of the conflict. However, its lack of shielding and lack of a hyperdrive sort of made it quickly outdated, and it was replaced later on in the war with more effective and more capable starfighters. Another fighter that popped up early in the war and often served alongside the V19 Torrent was the BTL-B Ywing. The BTL-B Ywing served as the primary bomber for the Galactic Republic during the first half of the war and actually filled that role basically through the entirety of the war. It was a very effective bomber designed to basically be able to just deliver heavy payloads to a target, and the Y-Wings themselves actually did have hyperdrives and shields, which made them significantly more capable in most combat compared to the V19 Torrent. The difference being that the Y-Wing seems to have a slightly longer development time and likely was in development before the creation of the Grand Army of the Republic. As a result, the Y-Wing did see service throughout the entire duration of the war and beyond, with some of these starfighters even falling into the hands of the Rebel Alliance during the Galactic Civil War. The next one that comes to mind, but was only seen on screen relatively briefly, was the Z95 Headhunter. The Z95 Headhunter was the obvious successor to the V19 Torrent. The Z95 was designed to be light, nimble, and an efficient dogfighter, being able to engage enemy starfighters in intense combat. But it was also designed as a well-rounded strike fighter capable of carrying out ground assaults when it was absolutely necessary. It too was designed with relatively light construction that cut out things like hyperdrives in favor of using things like hyperdrive rings when necessary. However, unlike the V19 Torrent, it did have its own shielding, allowing it to have a little bit more longevity in combat. By the way, the Z95 Headhunter was designed and manufactured by Incom, the same company that would go on to manufacture the T-65 X-Wings for the Rebel Alliance. However, the Z95 Headhunter was not the only contribution Incom had to the war effort. In the later days of the war, Incom manufactured and the Republic deployed the Aggressive Reconnaissance 170 starfighter, more commonly known as the ARC-170s. These were massive starfighters. They were huge and robust, having 3 crew members, a pilot, a Rio, and a tail gunner. On top of that, they had thorough and robust shields, a powerful hyperdrive, and some serious weaponry to back it up. You see, these starfighters were designed for a relatively specific role. They were designed for long-range scout missions looking for separatist fleets. However, when their effectiveness in combat, due to their shielding and heavy weapons, became more apparent, they were pressed into more combat-focused roles, often being used as primary multi-role starfighters by the Republic during the later days of the war. We see this during battles like the Battle of Coruscant. And there's one more fighter that came into use by the Galactic Republic during the final months of the war that is actually really significant. And that is the Alpha 3 Nimbus class Vwing starfighter, more commonly known as the Vwing. Now, it actually didn't play a major role during the conflict, only being seen here and there and being relatively rare during the final days. However, its design, which favored, again, a light, cheap, easy to mass-produce vehicle, would become the inspiration for later Imperial fighters. In fact, the engine systems on the V-Wing were very similar to the engine systems that would later be utilized on Imperial TIE fighters. The V-Wing would become the basis for Imperial starfighters during the first few months of the reign of the Empire, when the Empire began switching to a doctrine that favored large numbers of cheaply produced units over the quality over quantity mentality of the Republic. So the Republic did use this wide variety of fighters, which filled nearly every necessary role, but they weren't the only ones to have starfighters, obviously, in the conflict. If you want to learn about some of the starfighters utilized by the Separatists during the war, I'll leave a link up here to my video on that. And I want you to let me know down in the comments which of these fighters is your favorite. If you could fly one of them, which one would you choose? And if you have anything you want to see me cover in Star Wars, leave it down below in the comments. And last but not least, if you enjoyed this video, head down below, hit the like button, the subscribe button, and the bell icon so you get notified when I upload new videos. So for Sci-Fi Deep Dive, I'm Colin, and I will see you next time.